Well, I'm finally back from Hawaii. 4 islands, 10 days, 1 ship, and 20 quilters. What can you buy? What can you do? Where should you go? Well, stick with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please click that subscribe button. Several years ago, I interviewed one amazing woman, SERRAO of Poakalani Co, who was continuing the family tradition of Hawaiian quilting. And that got my brain spinning. Wouldn't it be amazing to learn Hawaiian quilting in Hawaii and get taught by a Hawaiian? Sissy said yes, so I contacted Ray and John of RG Travels, who organized my cruises to Alaska and Panama, to see if we could make it happen. I wanted to spend as much time as possible in the Hawaiian Islands, so we chose the Pride of America with 2 days each in Maui, Hawaii, and Kauai. Sissy and I got together over Zoom and designed a class with 5 modules that would be taught by Sissy and her sister Ray. The first one was held over Zoom 3 weeks before the cruise, where Sissy covered some important history of the islands, Hawaiian culture, and why Hawaiian quilts are so special. Both of her parents were quilters, with her father having a global reputation for his intricate template designs. It was a great lesson in trunk show, and by the end of the class, we had our fabric requirements and a list of tools that we needed to bring. Because the cruise would be in ports every single day with no downtime at sea, we decided to do the next 3 modules before we boarded the ship. That meant we had to arrive in Honolulu 2 days early. It was so nice to finally meet Sissy in person, plus her sister Ray that I had heard so much about, her niece Thea, and Mary, a member of their quilt circle, who was there to lend a hand. We had 3 classes, 1 in the morning on templates and cutting, 1 in the afternoon on applique, and 1 the following morning on quilting. Our tour directors, Ray and John, had everything organized and under control, so all we needed to do was to show up and sew. And then it was time to get on the ship. So I had my family with me, and we hit the ground on the first day running. It had been 38 years since my husband and I were last in Hawaii, and we wanted to see it all. So on day 1, we downloaded a Shaka audio tour and did the reverse road to Hana. This was not for the faint at heart. It was a winding 628 curves, often single lane and often just dirt, 6-hour drive. But the breathtaking views, the beautiful waterfalls, and these rainbow eucalyptus trees were well worth the drive. Unfortunately, it was Sundays, so Aunt Sandy's banana bread store was closed. The next day, it was time to get wet. We went snorkeling on the reef of an old volcanic crater. With a second stop at Turtletown. This evening, we had a second Hawaiian quilt trunk show. Sissy and Ray have brought the most beautiful Hawaiian quilts on board. And now that we had our own experience with the technique, we appreciated them even more. All the tiny points, those tiny curves, and the reverse applique. Thank you, Sissy and Ray, for bringing them on board. I have been waiting to see the island of Hawaii my whole life. And what better day to see the volcanoes than on my birthday? It did not disappoint. All the craters, the lava fields, and the vistas. And we had a fabulous, very late lunch at Pineapples. If you are ever in Hilo, make sure you try their fish and chips. And while we were ashore, Ray and John had our cabin steward decorate my room. It was one amazing birthday. The next day, the ship anchored on the other side of the island, and we had to tender into Kona. And I thought it was high time that I did some shopping. Quilt Passions is an easy walk from the pier, but you do need to look for the signs. It was a lovely store with all things Hawaiian. Lots of kits, patterns, and fabrics. and the people were very helpful. And these are the fabrics I purchased. I thought I would replicate my Alaskan panel kit with this ocean theme set, though I won't be piecing it on the long arm, a lesson I learned in this video here. I also found a couple of shark fabrics, and then a coffee theme fat quarter bundle that I just couldn't resist. They also have a lovely quilt museum next door, and I was lucky enough to enjoy it with Sissy at my side.
She pointed out different techniques and different artists, and we saw a quote of her father's on the wall.
There were some antique quilts, some recent quilts, and some for sale, and it's free to visit with a requested $5 donation or more at the door. Now, we are all having an absolutely fantastic time. Though the ship is a little travel weary, and the food and entertainment, it was not as good as Celebrity. Our cabin was clean, none of us were starving, and quite frankly, I was in bed by 8:30 most nights. And I wouldn't trade those morning sunrises on the back deck for anything. One night, I had the captain sit with my husband and I at the buffet. And of course, we asked him a million questions, which he graciously answered. Our eyes were also tuned into Hawaiian quilts everywhere. The ship had a big flag beauty near the dining room. When I had my nails done in Honolulu, the salon gave me a Hawaiian quilt pillow to hold. We also saw the Poakalani pattern books for sale, not just at the quilt store, but in the national parks and the coffee plantations.
And you can see it in our faces. We are having one great time.
In Kauai, I was up early to get the rental car and took that opportunity to find another quilt store. This store has been in business for over 50 years. Sissy knew the original owner, Julie Yukamura, and the new owner, Jean Akoba, was very welcoming. I decided to purchase these fabrics for the last hexagon on my Mille Fiore, and I thought I might try to make a dress out of this one. Today was the day for a water tubing adventure through the aqueducts of a former sugar plantation. Our local guides were fun and entertaining,
and kept us safe as we traveled the lazy river down the mountain. The ride was very smooth, but for some reason I kept spinning, so I'm not going to show you any more footage than this because you're going to get seasick.
They served us a great lunch and supplied us with all the gear.
After the tubing, we spent the rest of the day checking out the local wildlife.
And on the last day of the cruise, we left the kids behind, and my husband and I drove up the Waimea Canyon. Absolutely stunning landscapes that you might recognize from a Jurassic Park movie or two. And at the end, I did manage to sneak into one more quilt store, Vicky's Fabrics. And they also have a YouTube channel if you're interested. And I just fell in love with this soft Moda rayon. I also love this digital nautiloidish print. I might use it as a whole quilt exercise or just a backing for another quilt. Finally, I bought this piece of Hawaiian Christmas fabric. I have Christmas blocks that I need to pull together, and I think I can use some of this as sashing. This was our last night together on the ship. I had managed to finish all my applique, but I still had to start my quilting. We had one last gathering where Sissy and Ray left us with a Hawaiian song that was so special. We all said our goodbyes with tears in our eyes.
It was hard to believe that we just met 7 days ago.
My family stayed one extra day in Honolulu so we could take our time to see Pearl Harbor.
We toured a sub, met some new friends, and even found a quilt.
Last year, when I was in Holland touring World War II museums, I learned to zero in on the textiles, looking at the uniform details and the stitching, find the repairs, find the embellishments, find the fragments. Then I saw the YOSEGAKI HINOMARU flags. So many of these became trophies for the Allied soldiers. Last year, I learned about how many of the veterans' families are seeking to return their flags to the families of the Japanese men who died on the battlefield. There's a whole podcast about the Oban Society, and I'll leave a link to that Haptic Hue episode in the video notes below. So what's next? Go to my website and check out my 2 travel events for 2024. The next cruise is to Iceland in June with RGE Travels. We will be back on Celebrity for a 10-night cruise that includes Ireland, Iceland, and Scotland. We will have Bernina sewing machines as well as Kate Matthews on board with us. We are just finalizing the classes, so if there's something that you want to learn on board, please let me know. And in September, I will be hosting a Holland textile tour with Versat Travel, the people that I did the World War II tour with. We will be visiting museums, quilt stores, and markets. We will have workshops and guided tours and meet some of the local quilters too. So check those out. I'm going to leave a link here for some other playlists that I think you might like. Take a moment to check them out. Take care, and I'll see you next time.